Ever feel like you just want to cut through the noise and get to the heart of things? Like you want to learn something really thoroughly, but without drowning in a sea of details.
I feel that.
Well, that's what we're all about here. And today we're going to take a deep dive into something that's super important, but often misunderstood: sex education.
Right on.
And our guide for this journey is this document called Sex Education Explained. So we're going to try to pull out the really key insights like what this education actually involves and why it even matters in the first place.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Sex Education Explained is that it's not just like one little narrow topic. It covers a lot of ground. Like
Hmm.
the document breaks it down into 5 core components, and it really shows you how complex this whole subject is.
Okay, so let's start with the first one then. Human reproduction. Now, I'm guessing this isn't just about the biology, right?
You got it. It's
Oh.
way more than just the birds and the bees. The document actually emphasizes that understanding the emotional changes that come with puberty is just as important as the physical stuff.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, like it's about normalizing those awkward feelings and helping young people handle those changes in a healthy way.
Right.
Of course, you also learn about the reproductive systems and pregnancy and all that.
So it's a whole package deal. Okay, makes sense. What about the next component, sexual health? What does that cover?
Well, that's all about protecting yourself.
Okay.
So we're talking about sexually transmitted infections, STIs, contraception methods, and HIV prevention.
So like using condoms or the pill and stuff like that.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the document talks about moving away from just focusing on abstinence
Right.
and actually provide more information on different types of contraception and how well they work.
So people can make informed decisions.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
giving people practical knowledge to stay safe and healthy.
I mean, that's super important. Now, the next component, consent in relationships, feels like it's really fundamental to how we interact with each other. Absolutely. This one focuses on mutual respect, you know, understanding healthy relationships, what makes them work, and the importance of consent in any kind of sexual activity.
Hmm.
It's all about building a culture of respect and understanding right from the start.
Right. And something that's so relevant today: sexual orientation and gender identity.
Yeah.
What does the document say about that?
Well, it highlights the importance of education about the diversity of sexual orientations and gender identities, like
Hmm.
heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, and all the different gender identities out there.
Okay.
And it's not about pushing any particular agenda. It's just about giving accurate information and creating a space where everyone feels seen and accepted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And finally, tying everything together, mental and emotional well-being. How does this component fit into sex education?
That's a good question. The document stresses the importance of addressing self-esteem, body image, and overall mental and emotional health as they relate to sexuality.
Okay.
It recognizes that our mental and emotional state is super connected to our sexual health and experiences.
No.
Like understanding healthy boundaries is crucial for both respectful relationships and just feeling good about yourself.
I see. So it's pretty clear that sex education covers a lot of personal development areas.
A lot.
But why is providing this kind of comprehensive education so important on a broader scale?
Well, the source points to a few key reasons. For starters, it's linked to preventing unwanted pregnancies and reducing the spread of STIs.
Okay.
When people have accurate information, they can make responsible choices that protect their health.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense from a public health perspective.
Right. And then there's the fact that it helps to foster healthier and more respectful relationships.
Hmm.
Relationships built on trust and a clear understanding of consent. When people know about healthy relationship dynamics, it helps to create positive and fair interactions.
That makes sense.
And importantly, it helps to reduce the stigma around sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
It encourages people to seek help and information without feeling ashamed or scared.
But the document also mentions that actually getting this education to everyone isn't always easy, does it?
That's true. The source points out that there can be cultural and political obstacles in some places that prevent comprehensive sex education from being implemented.
Hmm.
Plus, in this age of like instant information online, but a lot of it not being accurate, it's a big challenge to make sure young people have access to reliable, inclusive, and accessible education.
That's true. It can be really hard to tell what's real and what's not these days. So, in the end, what's the main takeaway from Sex Education Explained?
The biggest goal, as the document says, is to empower people to make their own choices about their health, their relationships, and their overall well-being. It's all about giving them the knowledge they need, promoting safety, and fostering respect for everyone.
So, at its core, sex education is really about equipping people with the tools they need to live healthy and fulfilling lives. And, considering all the challenges we've talked about, like the cultural barriers and the fight against misinformation, what do you think is one concrete step that societies could take to make sure more young people get this kind of comprehensive sex education?
It's a big question, but even focusing on one specific action could be a good place to start.
That is a really big question.
It is, but it's one worth thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
That was a good one.
It was. And I hope you found it informative and maybe even thought-provoking.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into something fascinating.
See ya!